everybody, welcome to the VOICEBOX as part of the Cheltenham Literature Festival. My name is Marika, and I'm actually the director of the Science Festival. So we have a Science Festival here in June. And for the last couple of years, the Science Festival has done some events on the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So I was really thrilled to be part of this event, to hear all about what the Lumi Network have been working towards around the Sustainable Development Goals. So it's my absolute pleasure to welcome you all here tonight. And I'm going to hand over to Prashant, who's going to tell us a little bit more about the Lumi Network and what the UN Sustainable Development Goals are.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much. First of all, I wanted to thank VOICEBOX and also the sponsors, Bupa, wholeheartedly for giving us this opportunity to actually hear our voice. Right? So thank you very much. And that's not me. So we'll start with my presentation. We just go, so the first one. It's this one. No, that's a one. Yeah, if you just make it full screen. Yeah. Thank you, Anna. Yep. Great. So can I have Nikhil with me? Thank you, Marie. Just check if this is working.
You can push it down. Yeah, and you can also take it out if you want.
Yeah. Isaac, is that one working? Okay, great. Great. So let's get cracking. So.
Hello, my name is Nikhil. I'm 12 years old and the junior co-founder of Lumi. I'm building two solutions myself. One on climate change, which we'll share later today, and another on financial literacy for children.
That's Money Masters. Great. Thank you. Thank you, Nikhil. I'm Prashant. I'm the founder of Lumi. I'm 22. That is if I start counting from the day I started working. Now, this is a specific event for young people, so one has to kind of lie a little bit. I'm also an education entrepreneur. And that's where I want to take you. So I wanted to talk to you about my journey as an education entrepreneur, which is something that I started 12 years ago. I've spent 12 years on the road trying to make a small contribution of sorts in the world of education, which I must admit is very, very hard. In fact, it is so hard that along the way I became a practicing monk. And I'm not joking about that. Education is something that hasn't changed for over 100 years. And that is partly what we are trying to do through Lumi over here. Change the way people learn and the way they engage with the world. The other thing is, the whole seed for education for me was planted about the age when I was Nikhil's age, when I was 12 myself. And the story was that there's a young boy who actually came to live with us. He came from a village, and I grew up in India. And he was also 10 or 11 years old, and he was illiterate. But then, because I wanted to play cricket, and I wanted him to bowl to me, I ended up teaching him English and maths. And that guy turned out to be an absolute genius. He went on to become an engineer. He has lived a very successful life for himself. And that thing stayed with me. So when I left what felt like a rewarding career in the city 12 years ago, I kept that story in my head. And I actually then decided to get into education, but as an ed tech guy, as an education technology entrepreneur. And I've been very lucky. My journey as an entrepreneur has taken me all over the world. And whether it is to build an English language learning company in Brazil, or it is to build schools of the future in California. But there is one thing that has stayed with me other than that story. And that is something I've seen in Brazil, India, China, Singapore, Vietnam, or the UK or California. Education stands for hope. It gives everybody hope that somehow we can have a better life. So that's what we are trying to do here. And let's take you into the journey of what Lumi is from here. I've gone back. Now, we did start Lumi, but it actually didn't start very well. Last year, the world went dark. The pandemic started. My previous venture collapsed. And through that came a new idea, which is Lumi, and Lumi means light.
So I was invited to an education experiment in Denmark last year, and Lumi took shape when a prototype I developed to help tackle the pandemic was loved by quite a lot of people.
Yeah, so that video of Nikhil actually went viral, and that gave me an idea that what he can do, of course I felt proud as a father, but what he can do, I think millions of young people can do. And then from there onwards, let me just see if So we started Lumi. Now Lumi is solving two problems. And it's solving with a fundamental assumption which is very consistent with VOICEBOX. It's a platform for youth. It's a youth-led global movement. I mean, you see that around you here. And what it is it's actually trying to tackle the problem of these young people are inheriting a world that I dare say people like me have left in a bad place. Or it's not going to be enough if we all just let them go through their education and wait for them to come out at the other end and solve the problems. They have to do it now. And that is what we are trying to do. The other thing we are doing is we're giving them a platform where they can build the skills that they need for the future, because the future is unpredictable. I don't know how many of you know, but in the next 10 years, 75 million jobs are going to disappear from the face of this earth. And they'll be replaced by 130 million new jobs, many of which don't exist. So you need new skills, and you need to learn how to learn. That's what we're doing.
So Lumi is a platform which runs quests that expose young people to some of the biggest challenges facing humanity today, based around the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and empowers them to come up with tangible solutions, please.
So there are lots of examples. Which quests have you done here?
So I've done the Shaping Cities of Tomorrow quest, and recently I also started doing the
I think it's the Let Us Reimagine Education.
Yeah, the education quest as well.
Right. So I don't know how, I just want to raise quick raise of hands on how many of you are familiar with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals? I think you're further ahead than me. I had no idea what they were until about 18 months ago. And these goals were set up in 2015 by the United Nations to focus on the biggest problems that humanity is facing. And I personally find them the best framework that's out there. And we'll have Tom, one of the experts with us, talking about it. But these goals are talking about everything from reducing poverty. And there's an ambitious goal of reducing extreme poverty by 50% by 2030. Reducing, reversing climate change is one of them. Then there is health and well-being. Then it's the goal that we are closest to, which is the Sustainable Development Goal number 4, which is advancing education. And it has a goal of making sure that in the next 10 years, every child on earth has access to good quality primary and secondary education. That's a very, very steep goal. And so on and so forth. There are 17 of them. Now, 6 years on, I hate to say, we are not getting much closer to many of them. So we need to do a lot more. And this is just one of the things that will make a difference. Now, as Nikhil said, we run quests. Now, what is a quest like? Just quickly explain that, Nikhil.
So a quest at Lumi is split into 3 parts, starting with the ideation phase. In the ideation phase, a luminary, as we call them, is going to learn about the issue they're trying to solve, and possibly also brainstorm some simple ways of overcoming this. Then in the second phase, the creation phase, they will be able to develop this solution into a storyboard, which explains how their solution is going to work. In the third phase, they can expand on this, build a simple prototype, share this with their friends, families, and possibly schools, and receive feedback too. So luminaries will have an opportunity to take this further, make their solution something big, and drive change.
Yeah, and that is really what you're going to see today. This is, trust me, this is the most boring bit, particularly me. And what you will see here is a few teams out of, very many we have from 14 countries across the world, present to you and show you the real impact that they are capable of bringing. So the second part of this global youth-led movement is actually our facilitators. They're university students coming from all across the world, some of whom are here, and we have Rahel who will talk to you about that. And these are the people working with these young people in quests. And together, here's what they're doing. They are these people from all across the world, and there are 21 countries represented in Lumi at the moment as we speak, have achieved this. In less than 12 months, there are 42 high-impact innovations they've come up with. Now, these are not unicorns, or they're not big solutions or apps, but they're ideas which have moved from being a PowerPoint presentation like this one into something that's actually being prototyped or tested or released out there. Now, that's a big thing. So we are thinking big. What's our vision, Nikhil?
So we've got quite an ambitious goal. We would like to develop 1 million entrepreneurs and change leaders who can illuminate the world through their own ideas and make it a much better place.
And the hope is that if each of these apps actually impacts 1,000 people, we might actually be able to impact 1 billion people across the world. And if that's spread across 21 countries, well, that's systemic change. So that's our hope. We hope you feel and you come and join this journey with us. This is an open message, and I know this is a digital event as much as it is actually a physical one. It's an entrepreneur's hustle to invite schools, experts, organizations, whoever is out there, come and actually engage with us. We'll really appreciate that. So with that, I'll hand over to Tom, who's one of our experts who I've known for many years as a McKinsey Sustainability Fellow. And he'll come and talk to us about some other SDGs, as we call them, and his experiences at Lumi.
Thanks, Prashant and Nikhil. Thank you very much. Hi everybody, I'm Tom. I work in sustainability, in particular in food and agriculture. My passion really is food and how we produce it, and how we could do so much more sustainably in the future. So I work with Lumi as one of several experts that joins quests each week on Sundays or Saturdays with the luminaries. And it's been an absolute pleasure to be part of the organisation and playing a role in the development of some really amazing concepts. So a little bit about some of the work that I've done. For 6 years I was based in West Africa in Ghana, helping to develop sustainable food and agriculture projects. I was part of an organisation which was investing in projects there, bringing together all the right necessary technical skills and the capital needed to get projects off the ground. Ghana is a country with a lot of agricultural potential, but in some areas they really struggle to get projects off the ground, partly because of a lack of water. So we put in place, one example of one of the projects, we put in place a farm over 350 hectares that brought water to an area that was previously dry for 6 months of the year. So nothing could be grown during that period. And then even during the rainy season, due to climate change, there was very erratic rainfall. So the irrigation system that we put in there really reduced the risk of drought for the farmers, and also allowed crops to be grown all year round, so more than doubling the productivity of the land. So that was some of the projects there, and I think some of these things have been interesting and maybe relevant to some of the leaders. Since I've been back in the UK for the last 4 years, I've been really interested in technology and how it plays into food production. So I've been working since then with startups that are doing things to improve the sustainability of the food that we consume. So there's a couple of examples of some things that you may have heard of. The first is cultivated meat. Cultivated meat is real meat, just grown without the need to kill any animals. And in a nutshell, involves taking a sample of meat from an animal and then growing it in a bioreactor until you've got tons and tons of meat in a much faster time, with much less resources, and without the need to chop down forests and grow feed to feed animals, which we could be eating ourselves. The second example is insects, which might cause a few reactions, but insects are actually a very interesting source of food, both for animals and potentially for humans, because they can eat food waste that we would be throwing away otherwise, and they'll also turn that into a very nutritious composition within just 12 days, right? rather than weeks or months or even years to grow other sources of protein. So why should we care about how we produce and how we consume food? Well, it might come as a surprise to you to know that agriculture is responsible for nearly 1/5 of global emissions. That's more than the whole transport sector, more than all planes, more than all cars, more than all ships combined. And that's through direct emissions from agriculture, like, for example, from the methane that comes from cows, from the fertilizers that are used on the land, also to all the land use change, like to the forests which are cut down and so on. What's more, with a global population which is growing so quickly, we're going to have 2 billion more people to feed by 2050. And if we continue on the same trend that we're on now, agricultural productivity will have to increase by 60%, which is a very, very tall order. So we talked a bit about the SDGs before and how this is linking in with Lumi. As Prashant said, there are 17 SDGs. Some of them talk about agriculture and food very directly. For example, there is one which is end hunger. Clearly that's directly related to food. But then there are others, and many, many others, that also impact food, and food impacts them. So there's another one around ending poverty, and obviously people need to have the food and nutrition that they need to get out of poverty. There's one around water use. How food is grown really affects how much water we have and how it's used. Sustainable consumption and production is another one. And I think there are many more also that overlap with food and agriculture. And of the Lumi Quest, there are four groups here today. Some of those groups have been working on food and agriculture. Some have been working on other areas. So we're going to hear a little bit about each of their solutions. And I'd like to introduce the first group, which is Food Sense, and that's Natalie, Anish, and Oscar, who are going to come up now and present.
My name is Natalie, and today we will be telling you about a recent creation for us, Food Sense.
Food Sense is an app that aims to tackle food wastage and food storage issues.
The idea for Food Sense came from us joining a World Hunger Force from Lumi, which is an organisation that strives to talk about world problems and how they can tackle them. Essentially, Food Sense was created after we had learned about world hunger and the impact it had on our planet.
So, first, a little bit about us. My name is Natalie, and I currently attend St. Paul's Girls' School. I joined Lumi as I wanted to learn more about world hunger and how I could help fix it. With this motivation, we came up with the idea of the food sense.
Hello, I'm Oscar. I go to Cheltenham College. I joined Lumi because it seemed like a really good opportunity to play my part in helping the planet to thrive and face issues like food waste and climate change. So I and my partner started Food Sense.
Hi, my name's Anish and I currently attend King's College School. I joined Lumi because I wanted to help the world fight against climate change and food. Lumi provided the perfect opportunity for me to do this, and as well as that, I got to meet many people from around the world. So what problems are we trying to solve? Main two problems which Food Sense is trying to solve is food waste and food storage.
They are such a common factor in world hunger that by solving this, we're solving a great chunk of the issue.
Food wastage is a massive problem in today's society. Roughly 1.3 billion tons of food is wasted each year. This is a third of all food produced in the world, just chucked in a bin.
As well as that, 1 in 9 people suffer from hunger, and yet we're still throwing away a third of all food which is produced. And if you look at the graph here, you can see that China and India have the biggest total food waste. But this is largely due to their big population and also their lack of knowledge and knowledge.
For instance, take China. China suffers greatly from lack of food. 150 million people are malnourished. But it wastes 91 million tons of food every year. Around half of all food wasted in China is wasted at the final stage of the food process, retail and consumption. This means that most of its food waste will be because of bad conditions and lack of food preservation.
Knowing how to store food properly is also extremely important for the following reasons. If you reduce food waste, it saves money and benefits the environment. Fruits and vegetables will stay fresh longer, and you can buy things in bulk or in season to save money.
So if you solve both the problems of food waste and food storage, then you get the perfect solution. So what exactly is our solution? To solve the problems we just discussed, we came up with an idea to tackle both food waste and food storage. So to start off, we decided to tackle food.
We did this through meal plans by incorporating a specific proportion for our ingredients to ensure that there wasn't any food left over without food waste.
We also included information on how to store the ingredients in our meal plans to make sure that if we wanted to make the meal on a later date or if we wanted to give the other ingredients something else, we know how to store them properly. We combine them and made an app called Food Sense. The app essentially shows you meal plans and recipes, instructions and ingredients, as well as how to store each individual ingredient.
As well as that, all the meal plans are made and recommended by children. So now a quick demo. So we'd like to show you a small snippet of our app, which we built on Bunkable, and how it actually works. So as you can see here, this is the home page. If you want to click on an individual button, it would take you to the respective page. If, for example, you click the breakfast button, it would take you to the breakfast.
So as you can see here, we only have one meal at the minute. We will add to it as time goes on. So if I was to click on pancake meal, it would take me to a page that tells me 1, instructions on how to make it, 2, ingredients and exactly the amount you need. And if you click on the ingredient, it takes you to a page on how to store and preserve it.
So we think that this would be really effective, as it would incentivize people to waste less food, because they would only buy the right amount for them. It would also educate people how to store food in them, as well as just extra food they may have lying around in their house.
If you want to store one specific meal or food, you can click on the food storage page. And then find the food you want to store, for instance, avocado. Or banana. So as you can see, lemon is used to store banana. So you can navigate to the lemon page by clicking to something. And it will show you how to store it.
So it's planned for our future. As time goes on, we plan to add more ingredients and also more recipes, at least once a week. So if you have any suggestions or help as well, our app, please email us at storeset@gmail.com.
Thank you for listening. We will now answer any questions.
Can
which is it, or is it both?
It's both. So we have meal plans, which show you recipes and ingredients and instructions on how to make it. But then if you want to know how to store and preserve the foods, the ingredients that are in your meal plans, then you can navigate and have knowledge on how to store and preserve them.
But wouldn't I be buying enough for the meal plan?
Yeah, but if you wanted to use it separately, or if you wanted to keep the meal for a later date, like if you didn't want to eat it straight away, then you could store all the food in there.
And as well as that, like, let's say you need some raspberries, you can't, usually it's quite difficult to buy exactly 8 raspberries. That's sort of how I have it. Like, here's a good recipe.
So you can store.
A huge thank you to Food Sense, and can we now have our next team, Trash Teller, which is Sebastian, Harry and Ellie.
Hi, we're Team Trash Teller. I'm Harry, I'm 12 and I come from London, but I currently live in Wales. I joined Lumi because my friend said it was fun and I wanted to build a solution to tackle a problem.
I'm Sebastian, I'm 12 and I'm from Wimbledon. I started Lumi because I wanted to make a difference, rather than just thinking someone else will fix the problem.
Hi, I'm Ellie, I'm 10 years old. I live in London and I joined Trash Teller because I wanted to help fight pollution and the lack of recycling. The main problem we aim to solve is people not knowing what bin something goes in, so they either throw their rubbish in a landfill, out onto the street or wherever's convenient.
Roughly 1.8 million kilos of waste are sent abroad to be disposed of every day in the UK. Much of what is meant to be recycled is in fact just being burnt. If more people recycle correctly, the contamination of rate was lower, the UK government wouldn't have to make it another country's problem and instead would properly recycle it.
As you can see on the slide, landfills are not pretty, and if someone doesn't do something about it, they're just going to keep getting bigger and more prominent. We want to change this.
Of course, if something isn't recyclable, you'll have to find a way to dispose of it. It can be hard to figure out what is recyclable or not when you're shopping. This often means that whether or not a product is recyclable isn't important to the average shopper. We aim to change this too, by providing a quick and easy way of identifying if something can or cannot be recycled.
Here's an interesting quote to think about, which in a way sums up Lumi and also what we're doing.
Our solution is a free app that allows you to scan a barcode on a product and quickly get told if you can recycle it. It's available for download on iOS already. We hope to get it on Android soon.
You can also add products that aren't yet in our database, which can be voted on as to whether it falls into the category of recyclable or not. There's also a page filled with useful tips about how to dispose of trickier items, such as toothpaste tubes, oil, batteries, and more.
Here you can see a video demo of our app. The first product I'm showing is a non-recyclable product. And as you can see, once we scan it, it takes us to a page telling us it's not recyclable. Getting a recyclable product gives us the opposite result, this time telling us it's recyclable.
If we try to scan a product it doesn't yet know, it takes us to a screen asking if we want to add it. To add a product, you just fill in the requested information as can be seen on the video, and click submit.
So you can put in the information there, and that will have it.
Now you can see the voting screen along with the product we just added, the ink cartridges. Tapping it lets us vote on it, and once it has amassed enough votes, it will be added to the main database. Lastly, you can see a page of tips on various products.
As you may have seen it in the video, on the recyclable and non-recyclable pages, there was a button saying which bin should this go in. This is a feature we've been working on that lets you select your council and get told the exact colour bin the product goes in. This only works with a few councils and products right now. We'd love to expand this further.
Presently, the number of products our app can recognise is rather limited, but it will continue to steadily increase, especially if we get the help of new users adding and voting on products.
Another way in which we'd like to expand our product database is by working either with a big supermarket chain or a waste management company. These companies would hopefully have a list of products and barcodes, potentially even with whether they're recyclable or not. This would help massively and bring new users in as they can use it for more things.
Thank you for listening.
Teller. Now it's time for team GoGreen, which is Nikhil and Ariane.
Hello everyone, I'm Ariane and I'm 12 years old and I love cricket. Hello again, I'm Nikhil. So over the past 12 months, Ariane and I have been working on building a solution to what we believe is a very important problem in the form of an app. Our journey has had many highs and lows, but we are finally able to say that our app will soon be ready for use and download on the App Store, Google Play, and use as a web app. We'll start by sharing this illuminating quote, which sums up both our views on climate change. Emmanuel Macron has specifically said that there is no planet B, which means we have to save the environment and we don't have much time. Climate change is happening. It's not a minor issue, nor is it something that will solve itself. It is an unmitigated disaster, one that the generations before us have started and we have inherited. It needs real and substantive action now. It needs a monumental effort because every single individual across the globe to contribute. In 2018, in a report published on global warming of 1.5 degrees Celsius, the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel warned we now have just 9 years to prevent the worst impacts of climate change. By 2030, the effects could become irreversible. By changing our habits and the way we go about our daily lives, we can tackle the climate emergency and build a sustainable world. We are both incredibly passionate about saving the environment and contributing in a positive way. After considering many vastly different options, we decided to create our own app with Lumi called GoGreen. So GoGreen is an app which motivates people from all over the world to help save the environment in a fun and interactive way, engaging with their friends, families and communities. Without giving too much away, as you'll soon be seeing a demo of our app, GoGreen is an app in which you can log climate-friendly action, as we call them, green moves, to receive green impact points. The points allow you to be ranked on various leaderboards amongst people from all around the world. So users can compare their green impact, which is their positive impact on the environment, with others and create their own leagues to compete with friends. They can also join leagues to collaborate as a group. Other key features in our app include daily tips, green challenges, latest climate change news, and much more. We'd like to now share with you a demo of the latest version of the app, which will soon be released in the App Store and on Google Play. So when you enter our app, there is a sign-in login system which allows us to store your important data and for you to create an account with us. Once you have logged in, the app asks you if you have any energy-saving appliances, such as energy-saving light bulbs or solar panels. This gives you points depending on what you've selected daily. The main essence of the app is to be able to log eco-friendly actions you do and earn points for them. Here the user is logging, well, they already logged, that they have eaten a vegetarian meal, walked 10 kilometers, gone litter picking, and donated to charity. This will automatically award the user points, as you can see. The other important feature of our app is comparing yourself to friends and family through leaderboards. We have recently added the Create League feature, which allows a user to filter users, creating a leaderboard specific to a group of people. To add to the user experience, we have included content ranging from sustainable website links, GoGreen information, and climate change news links. On the home screen, we've also implemented a tip of the day, which allows users to be environmentally friendly away from them. In the More section of the app, there is a Contact Us function, which allows users to give us feedback to us, so we can constantly be improving. On top of this, there is a Search Users screen, which allows users to search for their friends, view their information, and in future make in-game friendships as well. Our final feature is a green community, which allows users to share their green moves or green actions they make. You can add text, images, and any user who has the app can see this. So, I'll let it. So that's the green community. So where are we going to take GoGreen next? Our goal is to eventually roll out our app across a wider range of people. Hopefully, 10,000 users by March 2023.
But really, what's the vision? Well, the hope is that every individual takes personal accountability to help eradicate climate change. We want to make GoGreen big and achieve the goals we just mentioned, but this is going to be a challenge.
We need more expert guidance while building our app, help building a pro version of our app, and help contacting the certain businesses and charities. Thank you for giving us the time for presenting to you today.
Be sure to download our app on the App Store and Google Play when it's out, and look out for us on social media too. Thank you.
Thank you, Team Go Green. And now it is time for Team Solace, which is Adia, Tavishi, and Naina.
Hello, we are Team Solace. I'm Tavishi and I'm 16 years old and I go to Latin Upper. I joined Lumi because I'm incredibly passionate about inequality. Coming from an Asian background, I have faced some mild racism in the past and I want to use that as a drive to help prevent that discrimination because I believe everyone has equal rights.
Hi, I'm Naina. I'm 16 and I go to Putney High School. Unfortunately, inequality has been an issue that is very prominent and has been around for generations. We saw it arise on a larger scale in the finals of the Euro match when England's loss got blamed solely on the black players, which caused a huge surge of racism around the country. So, although it doesn't always make national news, inequalities around us every day, and it's really heartbreaking to see people discriminated against due to things such as their race, religion, gender, or sexuality. And I hope to change that, and that's what our app strives to do.
Hi, I'm Adia, I'm 14 and I go to Guildford High. Like many others over here, I did initially join Lumi because my parents introduced me to it, but what really compelled me to stay and create Solace with Naina and Tavishi, other than how well we got on as a group, was actually how much I learned about inequalities. I've always been really passionate about inequalities and from a young age been inspired by people like Malala Yousafzai who have fought against inequalities and injustices and stood up for what they believe is right. But I think I thought I knew a lot more than I did about inequalities coming into Lumi, and I've actually learned so much more about how systemic it is and how deep-rooted inequalities are and how perpetuated they are on a day-to-day basis in the form of microaggressions. So that's a bit about me. Over to Tavishi to explain the problem.
So the problem we're trying to solve is eradicating inequality, which is eradicating discrimination against a variety of groups such as the LGBTQIA community, many different ethnic minorities, and in general groups that have been historically discriminated against in the past. So this discrimination starts from a younger age where people are influenced by their society and their culture to act a certain way towards a group because of their culture having that prejudice. So we would like to target a younger audience to prevent that bias developing from the start so it doesn't develop into a belief or a behaviour.
So can we just switch the slide? So I don't think there are very many websites and apps that are out there that teach children about inequality in an engaging manner. On top of that, schools, it's not really part of the curriculum or focused on in intense detail, and our app aims to fill that gap in the system. So as Tavishi said, when children are younger, they're very impressionable, and we hope to change their mindset at a young age, so as they grow up, they will continue having the correct mindsets. So in our app, we have decided to create it via Landbot, which is an interactive chatting forum. This is actually because interactive material is known to make children 6 times more likely to remember the information and absorb the information they're learning as it engages all parts of your brain. We have lots of fascinating material like quizzes and video clips, which Adi will take us through in a second. And this is because we also want to make it as much as an enjoyable experience for children as possible. and a good learning experience. So we also aim to introduce our app into schools around schools around the country, so that we can reach, teach and inspire as many children as we can.
So now I have the really fun job of taking you through our prototype. That sounds sarcastic, but it's not, I promise. So we've got a few videos on how, I think you have to click here, unfortunately, to get to the, right, go back. Let's hope the video works, but essentially when you come into Solace, as Nina said, we did decide to do a chatbot because it's more interactive, and given our target audience is 11 to 16-year-olds, we thought it'd be easier to interact and connect with them that way. So when you first initially enter the app, you have a welcome message, as shown here, that kind of just says, hi, welcome to Solace, and also introduces you to our main focus for the first 3 inequalities we have, which is microaggressions. And at the moment, we've got 3 inequalities in the app, which are racism, sexism, and sexual identity discrimination. But as we go on, we do hope to add more. Essentially, the learning methodology, sounds a little bit fancy, for Solace is 4 things: definitions, videos, quizzes, and interactive activities. At the heart of it, it's really simple, but we found that simple was the best way to go with Solace, just so we can get the message across in the best way possible. So I'm just going to take you through some videos of how the definitions and things could look in the video. Sorry, it's a little bit cumbersome with the videos, but essentially I'm just going to take you through the racism module. When you enter the racism module, you have a professionally sourced definition, if you like. That's factual, it's kind of like Wikipedia, properly sourced from professional sources, just so you can have ground layers set out and you can connect with what you're actually going to learn about. And then as the app goes on, this is backed up by videos. So we aim to do a variety of different videos. We have more professionally sourced videos, which are from actual YouTube channels, and then we've also got some Solace original content. So these 3 are examples of actual professional videos that we've included in the app. And there's a 4th video, if you just press again, that is actually one of our videos, and it's a screen recording. I'm not sure if it's going to play, but it's a screen recording of a Snapchat conversation between 3 friends, and its aim is to highlight how microaggressions can crop up in day-to-day conversations and go unnoticed really easily. So for entertainment purposes, we have kind of exaggerated some of the microaggressions, but a lot of them are very common between friends and gone unnoticed because they're your friends. So things like, oh, you don't comb your hair every day, that's grim, in reference to different types of hairs that may not be like typical hairs. Or you're so pretty for a specific nationality, or your food smells, etc. And these are very common things that are said on a daily basis, and those are the kind of things that we wanted to highlight in the video. And then the next part are quizzes. So normally our quizzes contain around 3 to 4 questions, and 2 of those are more factual based, actually testing that you've been listening to the videos and absorbing the content. And the other 2 questions are more opinion based, to test what you're actually thinking as you're going along the app. And that also helps us, as we know generally what people are absorbing as they go through the app and what their thoughts are and how they change as they continue. And then the last bit is interactive activities. I might just explain this if the video's not working. But we've tried to take advantage of the fact that we have got a chatbot and included an interactivity bit as part of the racism module, which is an emulated mock text conversation. So the Solace chatbot acts as someone who's made a few racist remarks or microaggressions, and you as a Solace user have to go in and talk to the person and choose the right approach with them. And after that goes through, as you can see, like you've got choices on the board that you can pick as like how you want to respond to them. And at the end of the module, after you finish that activity, you get a kind of roundup of going through what approach you took and how successful it was. So essentially, those are the 4 main parts of Solace. That's the Solace journey. And that's essentially how we built our app. So yeah, thank you for listening. Do you have any questions?
Questions now, so if you want to share the microphones out.
I'd like to ask a question.
Okay.
That was great. I wonder if you thought about expanding this to adults, because I think there's a lot of microaggression in adult workplaces. Maybe people don't realise, so could be something for you to consider.
Yeah, so I think probably after expanding it to a younger audience, we probably will look into expanding it into adults, because I think microaggressions are everywhere, not just in children. But at the moment we're targeting people our age, firstly because we can relate to them, and secondly because, as we said, the bias starts from a younger age. But of course then we're going to expand it out to adults, because we feel like everybody needs that education.
I think the main kind of help we want, or like the main next steps from here, is actually finding out how we can embed Solace into a curriculum, so schools and workplaces can actually use it and test how that works in the curriculum. Okay, yeah.
Do you feel that COVID has exacerbated maybe microaggressions and maybe not always on the equality or inequality space, but just in general in schools and amongst the youth?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Okay, fine. I
have a statistic about this, but I think definitely microaggressions have increased. I think it comes obviously from people spending way more time on their phones and on social media, and you just feel like you can say whatever you want. I actually heard a statistic that said since March 2020, I think racially motivated hate crimes and racially motivated incidents have been reported by police, and they've gone up from 12% from last year to this year, which, if you think about it, may not sound like a lot, but in retrospect, in 2021, it shouldn't still be going up. So yeah, I definitely think it's still a problem.
Also, especially after the Black Lives Matter movement, you would think that it has decreased and people are becoming more aware, but I think because, as Adia said, because of COVID, people have felt that, oh, I can say anything I want behind the screens, but that's just not right.
We're going to share these out. So that one, and you want to bring one down here. And yeah, bring that one down as well. Okay, so we're open for questions now to all the teams. So I think I've got a question actually, if you don't mind me starting it off, to all the participants in the Lumi. So change begins with yourself, doesn't it? So can you all tell us a little bit about how being in the Lumi Network has impacted yourself and what changes you have made individually as part of this project?
So I've noticed that after learning about inequality, which is what my quest is about, I've started noticing a lot more around me. So in school, in like really wherever I go, I'm a lot more aware, and also I tend to kind of bring it up a bit more. Like, for example, in our app, we also do these tasks in which we teach people how to react if they see a microaggression or like something like one of the biases around them, or they are in fact like someone says something to them. So me myself, after learning and like talking to Arthur and Tavishi about what to do in certain situations like that, now feel more comfortable in speaking up about it in front of and around my friends.
That's great. Yeah.
So since the app which I'm developing is about food waste and food storage, now I think I'm just generally more conscious about how much food I'm wasting and the people around me are wasting. Like in school, I started noticing how much food actually gets wasted by each person. So yeah, that's mainly what changed for me. Also between our group of friends, we started a strike system between us. And every time we waste enough food, we get a strike. And then if you get 2 strikes in the week, you'd have to do some kind of punishment. I think by learning about the solution to what the issue you're trying to solve, it helps a lot. Because before this, I knew obviously that climate change was quite a major issue, but I think learning about some statistics and what people are actually doing so far and what they're not doing is quite important, so you know what you can do.
everyone's saying some great things here. I'm completely drawing a blank right now. So I think Ellie's actually got something.
Thanks, Harry. After making the app and seeing and learning about how much wastage is happening and lots of it being things that can be recyclable, you really notice how much waste there is around the cities and how much trash you find everywhere on the streets. And you really become aware of how this is a problem and how other people don't really seem to get that.
Yeah, I think I've become a lot more aware of how much food we're wasting, and kind of like what you did. At school, we kind of now have a board which says how much food we wasted after each meal, and it's actually quite astonishing how many kilograms of food we waste every day just after our school meals. So I think there's a lot that can be done to tackle that.
Does anyone else want to say anything? No? Good? Well, thanks for sharing all of that. Does anyone else have any questions? Yeah, can I just grab one of the mics? I'll be on the mic.
My question for all the teams, how do you guys intend to increase the user base, increase the footfall? So, yeah.
So get more people using their apps, yeah.
Yeah, well, I guess because our app, we want to first circulate it to schools. I think that's a big way that we want to, and of course we're all in schools right now, so we are basically our target audience. So I think our first step is circulating it to our friends, people in our year, and alerting teachers about it, and then slowly kind of implementing it into our own school curriculums and then other school curriculums.
Yeah, I think it's similar for us as well. I think after we get our app finalized, we can publish the first version on iOS and Android and spread it with friends and family, ask them to give us some feedback about what they think we could improve, what's good already, and as well as that, we can present it to our school, and so we get a lot more users like that, and then once we get feedback, we can make more versions more. Well, we have a YouTube channel which we're also working on, and in the future we're also going to have a class leaderboard, and like every week on a Friday morning during our form period we're going to go through that, and obviously teachers in the future will be awarding merits and stuff like that, people at the top of the leaderboard, so yeah.
Well, with us, we want to get people using it at schools and local communities before going any bigger, so we can actually get it quite good before we release it to a more wider plane. And I pretty much got everyone in my year using it, which is weird because everyone just wanted to download it.
I'm in my last year of primary school, so lots of the people in my school currently know about the app, and as I'm going to be changing schools in the next year, I'm going to try and increase the amount of people that know about Trash Teller and that are aware of how much wastage there is around the city that we currently live in.
Also, I think doing talks like this also really help. No matter how big and small the audiences are, it only really takes one person to connect you in the audience to inspire millions of people. So yeah.
Can I ask about
Yes, absolutely.
It just occurred to me that everyone's building an app, and are some of the solutions in other ways, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, so that's true. Actually, we posed this question to many of the luminaries globally, and here's the answer I got from them. We said, why don't you actually build an offline, do a campaign in your school? They said, no, we don't want to do that, because that can't be global. If you do this here, if you build an app, and this is the precise answer that someone gave, if you build an app, then that once you download it, you don't have to ever remember what it was called, right? And it's in your phone. You don't have to go looking for the website. Right? So that's one thing. The second thing is, because Lumi is global, they start thinking, how do we collaborate? We collaborate through apps. So we then decided, because we are a young company, let's try and focus on one thing, right? And let it be driven by what the luminaries want to do. if you can do an app, everything else frankly is easier. You know? So they have been doing things. I mean, there is a team in Mexico which has actually done a campaign in the school to reduce food waste and convert it into fertilizers for their school gardens. So there are examples like that. And to your question of how do you actually promote and develop these solutions? I mean, the lady here asked the same question. How are they going to build it? The answer is, in a startup, we are flying the plane as we are building it. And we take every opportunity, like the one we got here, with the help of VOICEBOX and Bupa, and many other opportunities like that. This is not the only one. And people who are listening here, right? The ideas, as Lena said, they will come from them. We're also thinking of now expanding the Lumi curriculum to include marketing in specific. So once you've developed a prototype, from there you move on to how to market your solution. But that is not going to be for everyone. You have to first show that you can get your app to be used by friends, family, and school. So you have to show commitment, and then you could move towards that. That's one thing. The third thing is sponsorships. So as an example, Bupa in itself is interested in some of these solutions and saying, how can we help? IBM has come and said, well, we could actually think about developing a lab together. I don't know what's going to happen and what not, but I'm pretty sure we'll keep hustling. something will click over time.
Should we go to Rahel?
Yes, Rahel, I think it would be great to have you talk about the other side of what makes Lumi global. Yeah, I think we have it. Yes.
Yeah, so hi, I'm Rahel, and I'm very excited to be here today. Very grateful to be part of this adventure because this is quite big, not only for the luminaries, but for the whole of Lumi. And since I'm just a bit older than the teams presenting before me, my part in, or my role in Lumi is also a bit different. I represent the eliminator side of things, which is the fancy word we use for facilitator. So us facilitators come from all over the world. We have very diverse academic backgrounds. We have engineers from Kenya, business majors from the US, climate scientists from Canada. And as for myself, I originally come from Hungary, and now I study behavioral sciences at UCL. So, but one thing that kind of connects us all is that we're part of this change, and we're developing skills both in ourselves and in even younger minds that we can then use as we go on to work. So this is really not just an internship or a part-time job. This is real commitment, and many of us aspire to build long-term careers here. So, go back on. Thank you. So I joined Lumi because I figured I had some years of volunteering experience with young people, and I had just finished a course on design thinking, which I was quite eager to put into practice. So there's this design thinking concept called the beginner's mind, which is basically why kids can pick up on things so easily and adults are inhibited by what we can and cannot do. So at 20, I feel like I'm somewhere in between, where I get inspired super easily. I know that I can also make a difference. I'm eager and passionate about driving change and nudging people to develop healthier and more sustainable habits. But then I'm adult enough to know that when a luminary comes up to me on their third session and goes like, I have an idea for a solution. Let's ban all airplanes. I'm like, I'm probably gonna have to give you more tools so that we can shape this idea into something we can actually start working on. Although I'm also gonna say that I appreciate the out-of-the-box thinking, and you did identify a real problem. That's probably a bit big of a step. So yeah, so this beginner mindset is really important, and this is how I see my role as a facilitator. I give these children share knowledge, share procedural knowledge that they can use to drive positive change, and then we're building it all together. I'm helping their solutions come to life. And this is something I quite enjoy, and I know that every other facilitator at Lumi would agree with me on this. So as you've seen from like GoGreen and Trash Teller and all these teams presenting here today, one of the problems is that I would think that the general public today knows about the risks of climate change, but they're just too afraid to start making a difference. They've never been given proper guidance on how to change their habits, and they're shamed for not changing, which frightens them to begin in the first place. So this is exactly what we're doing, and empowering and encouraging young minds and giving them the agency that they can actually use their voices, and they should use their voices, is a very powerful tool, as you have seen, probably. And it's just so rewarding, like coming here today, hearing these young minds talk, hearing their vision, and for me too, on a personal level, just learning and being part of it by doing it, while doing it, is just unmatched. So, thank you.